Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
This is Charlotte Canyon. I'm your host for today's show, and I'm the author of the best self-help book in the state of Texas, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying: How to Parent Your Parents. And we are going to speak with Katherine Brown, and her latest book is Rest, Relax, and Run for Your Life. Katherine, how are you doing this today?
I'm doing great, Charlotte. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about, give us a little background of yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm from Texas. I've grown up in the same area that I live now. I'm married to a wonderful husband, and I have a beautiful stepdaughter that is a big fan of my writing. And her name is Lexi, and she is 10. She writes a little bit of stories of her own. So our house is full of books and full of books to be.
Books to be. And I was reading in your bio, you've written some children's books. Can you tell us a little bit about your background there?
Sure. Yes. So my children's series, it's 5 books long so far. It will be 6 when complete. And funny thing, I actually started it when I was in elementary school, dug it out of an old binder as an adult, tidied it up and added to it, and that became book 1. And friends and family were pretty impressed. They thought it was kind of cute, kind of cool. It was very short. I had no idea required lengths for any genre or anything at the time, but I continued it. And so it follows a girl named Bailey, and it begins her kindergarten year of school. And each book is the next grade level that Bailey is in. So it will stop at her 6th grade year for book 6.
Got you. Is there a main character in it that you use through the five
Bailey
books?
Bailey is the main character in each book, and then a few secondary characters are introduced that become more popular into each. She has a year with a troublemaker new student, a year separated from her best friend. They're not in the same class anymore. So several characters flow throughout, with Bailey tying them all together.
Okay, and do you use characters that are possibly in her life or classmates that she's met, to intertwine through those stories?
Yes, definitely.
So you do use real life.
Yes, some pulled from mine, things I remember, and some pulled from complaints Lexi brings home. So she is Bailey sometimes, and I'm Bailey sometimes. We're kind of both woven in there.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool. Okay, now your new book is called Rest, Relax, and Run for Your Life. Now tell us, you said this is your first adult book. Isn't that what you told me?
That's right. Yes, I themed it my first book for grown-ups when I finally printed it, and I said, oh, look, a big book, because my children's books are pretty small. Yes, I'm very excited about it. It was such a blast to write. The main characters are best friends, and they own a bakery, and so I also was hungry while writing it quite often.
Okay, can you give us a little synopsis and who your 2 main characters are?
Sure. So Piper Rivers is our main character, and her best friend Samantha Lowe helps her operate the Ooey Gooey Goodness Bakery. And they specialize in all kinds of desserts, from ooey gooey cookies to pie. The town ran a fundraising contest between businesses to raise money for human trafficking awareness, and the bakery won. So the setting of the story is their grand prize, a trip to a spa. But at the spa, dilemmas and strange, mysterious notes and sabotaged steam rooms. The list of things that happens to Piper and Sam, it goes on and on. And so during the book, they have to figure out who's leaving all these notes and causing all these problems. And then Piper gets herself kidnapped, and we have to resolve that. So It's very fun.
So it's a mystery?
Cozy mystery, yes, with a little bit of the culinary mystery theme as well, because there are lots of recipes talked about, and I hope to eventually put out a little small free recipe book that comes from Piper and Sam's recipes here.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Because I have a book that goes with mine. Mine's in the health industry, and I have one that helps caregivers. There's another character in there. I think she's called Mrs. Gladys or Gladys. How does she interact with the two girls?
So Gladys is retired and alone. Her husband passed away a while ago, and she was not a fan of the new bakery when it first opened. But after she saw the good work the girls did in the fundraising, she realized she had been wrong to judge, new versus old, and she came in to visit. Well, somehow Gladys ends up going to the spa with Sam and Piper, and she has a habit of turning up when things are going bad. So she's a quirky character, and a little bit of time for Piper and Sam to really decide what they thought about her.
Oh, okay. Can you tell us something a little more intriguing? I know you said it's a mystery. Can you take an excerpt, say, down the road? And didn't you tell me earlier that this is going to be a series of books?
Yes, that's correct. It's going to be a series. Each series will kind of highlight human trafficking awareness as well. The books are fiction, but that's kind of a goal that I have with them that I don't think I mentioned. But each one kind of highlights the problem of human trafficking and how it's in areas all around us that we don't recognize. So in this one, the mystery is slight, and it's all centered on Piper. In future series books, a little bit of the human trafficking darkness comes in more, but it's still a cozy mystery. It doesn't get too graphic or too suspenseful. So in this one, though, a little more about Gladys, as you asked. It's funny because my beta readers asked the same thing on the first draft. They said, you kind of just went and picked Gladys up at her house. I need to know more about this Gladys. And so an entire chapter came on my first revision, where Gladys was discovered to have a very interesting hobby of carving faces into palm trees, who she then talks to. So she's an eccentric old lady. It's hilarious the way she's portrayed throughout the book. Like I say, my beta readers were thrilled to get to know more about her, and it's because of them that she really obtained the big personality that she has.
So is she artistic? Are these faces that she puts in the palm trees, are they noticeable?
Yes, she makes them very realistic and gives them personalities. And they were a result of failed attempts at being artistic at the Senior Citizen Center. She had tried several of the more feminine arts and finally gave it up and went to wood carving one day. She loved it, but had nothing to carve but the palm trees in her backyard when she went home.
Okay. Have you thought about making a book on her? Because she sounds like a real interesting character.
I haven't, but that's a great idea because I really think a lot of people would love it, and it would be so fun to write. It would be really easy just because she kind of talks to you. She's got such a big personality. There's so much room to go with her.
No. Is she patterned after somebody in your family or somebody you know?
She's not patterned after an actual person. Actually, I took some of the cues from one of my favorite authors, the Misfortune series by Jana De Leon. I love those books, and she's got some senior citizens that are pretty big personalities in there as well, and I love that whole series. And so Gladys, she doesn't really have things in common with those characters other than I tried to make her that big and that fun and that out of nowhere like those characters were.
Like those characters. Are you going to add any more other senior characters, or have you thought on, you said you're going to have a series of at least 5 books. Have you thought of new characters that you're going to introduce down the road that we can be looking forward to?
Yes. So There's one person in book 1 that's going to make a larger appearance in book 2, and I'll just tell you that Gladys met him at the spa, and she's trying to keep a developing relationship a secret in book 2, and we'll see how long it takes Piper and Sam to figure that out. But she was all excited about a particular spa day, and so that kind of is a little bit of the mystery in book 2. I'm almost finished writing that draft. So.
Oh, very good. And, you said that they go to a spa, and I noticed that it said a heavenly spa. So did they have some good times at the spa before things started getting mysterious?
They did. They had good and bad times. And it's the Oh Heavenly Day Spa because it's actually operated partially by a church in their little town as a business, but also as a refuge for women or children. They kind of, when they pull people out of those human trafficking situations, they're given kind of a retreat. There's paying clients, and then the church uses it as a ministry as well as for ladies retreats or Sunday school class parties. And so it operates both, not a full nonprofit, but not a business only operation. And so that's where the Oh Heavenly Day Spa came from. The church was in charge of the construction of the spa. They have one of my favorites, a gold mask treatment at the spa. They have nails done. Piper has never had a pedicure until this book. So that was interesting.
And I understand that Piper and Samantha have some unique textures or something with their hair.
Yes. So Piper is more of a staid, laid back character, but Samantha comes from parents who are the mayors and the mayor's wife of the town. And because of that, she's lived with some pretty strict rules and some pretty uppity attitudes for most of her life. So Samantha has been dyeing her hair since she could drive herself to a parlor just to get under her mom's skin a little. And she finally goaded Piper into doing the same. So while Sam's is usually a flamboyant color all the time, red streaks in this book, Piper went as a joke to Sam and added some turquoise and silver to the bottom of hers, and they both fell in love with it, so she kept it.
So she kept it. Is that something you've wanted to do, or maybe your stepdaughters wanted to do?
I think my daughter would love to have blue hair. I'm not quite sold on it yet, but I did pick my favorite colors for Piper to do for her big joke. But I don't know if I could go that far.
Well, I have a friend that's my age, and she has blue hair. So, I mean, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So
there's a good friend of mine has blue and purple hair all the time, and it's beautiful on her. It reminds me of a mermaid, but I'm not that brave.
And someday you may let your stepdaughter, color her hair different colors.
I think she'll have to be an adult.
Yeah. Well, Katherine, we're getting ready to take a break. I want everyone to stay tuned. And if you want to go pick up any of the Texas Authors books, be sure to go to books.txauthors.com and you can pick up the Indie Beacon books. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
The war has ended, but the memory lingers on. Has been written by Helen Monday and Christiane Gutling. A story of a Dutch secret agent under German occupation, highlighted drama, and then the British rescuing him and teaching him how to navigate the ferry swordfish airplane. This book can be purchased on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, written by Helen Munday and Christian Gatling.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
This is Charlotte Canyon, and we are speaking with Katherine Brown today. Katherine, I have a question for you. You mentioned your favorite author. Can you tell us, what attracted you to her style? And are you writing in her style, or have you chosen another author that you write in her style?
So for Jana de Leon, one of my favorite authors that I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't say I'm particularly writing in her style, but it has influenced my style, definitely. But one of the things that I loved was just the personality of her characters. And the series that particularly drew me to her involves a CIA agent that has to go dark and undercover to keep from having an assassination basically on her life attempted. And this character is having to completely transform from this tomboy kick-butt assassin to become a podunk town girly girl beauty pageant queen as a cover. And so watching her struggle to become this different person just made the character just really fun to get to know. So that series is what pulled me in, and I've just been reading them ever since. Probably my style is just influenced by, I read everything from cozy mysteries to historical fiction. So my style is just words. I just have loved the words, the flow from the time I was small. And so the way different authors use them, I couldn't pinpoint which ones are in my book, but I have no doubt that they've all influenced me in some way because I devour everything I can find to read. So,
did you write when you were in school?
I did. So I started out with little short stories, like I say, that became my children's series for one of them. I wrote those. I actually composed a newsletter for a few months that I had enlisted my younger sister's help, and we wrote columns about our school life and sold them to our parents like they already knew what was going on, but we made them pay for newsletters separately for 50 cents a piece. When we were growing up, we would put a rack on the dining room table and kind of have them purchase writing from us. So I've always written. When I was a teenager, it became poetry. And so in the future, I may eventually put out a poetry book. I'll go back through and make a collection of those. But so it's drifted over the years between length and genre and interest level. I did put it down for many years. When I first went into like the workforce after graduation and everything, I was going to college online. I was working 50 hours a week. So there were probably 4 or 5 years when I wrote nothing. And when I picked it up again, it was like I found a piece of me.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this. If you had to give a piece of advice to an early writer, what would you tell them?
Definitely to write all of the time, because developing that habit early on will keep you from getting writer's block and all those things you hear authors stress about or complain about. But if you're in the habit of putting words on paper, it just starts to flow better. I know I struggle beginning a book because I haven't been working on it. But once I get to the middle of it, it just takes off because I'm used to the flow and it's getting in my head. So I would tell them to write constantly and to not give up, because I put it down. I pursued financial stability. I did all of those things, which I don't regret. But I wish I hadn't forgotten to write in the meantime, because I probably could have had maybe 2 or 3 more books out by now rather than just the ones in my children's series.
But let me ask you this. Do you write every day? And if so, how many hours a day do you write?
I write most every day. I don't force myself to write on weekends. If I have the time, I have the time, but my family comes first. So this year, I actually stepped away from the corporate world, and my husband has been very supportive, and I came home to write full time. And so now I write at least 2 to 3 hours a day. Now, sometimes that's in 30-minute spurts. Sometimes it's 2 full hours. And then I research kind of what I'm writing. I outline a little bit. I'm not very good at outlining. Really, the words just come to me. And so I just kind of write what the characters want to do. But I'm trying to get better at outlining in order to increase the speed that I write at. So I don't have those moments when I'm stuck and trying to figure out what comes next. So I spend most of the day at the computer writing or doing writing-related activities now.
So you write on the computer. When you said writing, I actually handwrite everything just because of the genre I come from, because I'm a baby boomer, and then I put it on my computer. Do you write directly on the computer, correctly, right?
I write my stories directly on the computer 90% of the time. My poetry I usually write by hand first because I'll move phrases around and I'll draw arrows and it's just scribbled all over before I'm done. And occasionally, if I'm waiting somewhere, like at a park or a dentist office, then I'll be writing in a notebook as well. But the majority of my books, I actually just sit straight down and type them all the way through.
All the way through. And how long does it take you, how long did it take you to write that book?
I participated in NaNoWriMo for the first time last year, and I got my draft of 50,000 words done in 1 month. Then it took about 2 months to work with beta readers and get the feedback and get the edits done. But all in all, this book was finished within a 3.5 month time period.
Oh, that's super. Well, okay, you've got your first one. Do you have a target date on when the second one will be out?
I'm actually in a competition with an author friend of mine named Tammy, and we set June as the target date for her goal and my goal of finishing our current works in progress. And I think I'm on target to finish my draft. Now it will all come down to how quickly I get feedback from beta readers and do my editing process. So I'm not promising I'll meet June, but that's the target date.
So you don't have an editor and a coach that guide you through this. You just kind of use your beta readers and finish the books that way.
That's correct. I use my beta readers a lot, and I've also gone through some editing courses myself. And I try not to edit my work firsthand. I wait for feedback, and then I put it aside because it is difficult as a writer to edit your own work when you think you know what you wrote and you might miss those typos. So I definitely don't do it immediately, and I always wait for feedback so I can incorporate that as I edit. But I actually did a refresher editing course in February, and it was great. And so I'm already spotting more things. I spot a few things in some of the books that I download to read. So I feel like I've kind of improved in that area. And I did use a cover designer for this book, but everything else I've pretty much done on my own.
Okay. I have to ask you something. Have you ever, I know you switched from children's books to the mystery novels. Have you even thought beyond that series of something else you'd like to write about?
Unfortunately, my brain wants to write a million things. So yes, I actually have probably 4 works in progress that are unrelated right now. One of my next ones is an idea I've had for years that was something that got put aside, but it involves Ireland and a leprechaun legend and a librarian, and I'm really looking forward to writing it maybe in April. And then I'm actually considering pursuing maybe some Christian fiction or even because as a stepmom, I just have had a lot of experience with some of the struggles that blended families go through. So maybe even some encouraging literature for blended families or stepmoms in particular, sharing some of my struggles, some of the battles and victories in the relationship that Lexi and I had and have built. And so literally the range of things I want to write, it looks like ADD.
Well, we're getting ready to go to another break, and this is Charlotte Canyon, and we'll be back with Katherine in just a minute.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon.
This is Charlotte Canyon, and we're speaking with Katherine Brown. Katherine, we've only got a short segment here, and I want to ask you one question. Have you ever thought, since your book is about trafficking, that it might be a book that schools could get to young girls? Because we know that trafficking goes from anywhere from 12-year-olds up to 16-year-olds mostly. Have you ever thought of taking your book into them and seeing if they might be interested in your series? Because it might help young girls to understand they got to be careful and protect themselves.
I have, especially because the information at the back of the book, there are resources for how to spot human trafficking, how to report human trafficking, the signs and everything. So there's a lot of helpful information at the back, even though the story itself is fictional. So I've considered that. The school I grew up going to is actually very receptive to putting my books in their library, but I haven't been able to try that on a broader scale yet. It's something that after I've gotten maybe 2 to 3 of the books completely finished, that I do want to take and try to get a wider net of people taking it public. And so I actually spoke with a man who has a mission project at his church that participates in human trafficking awareness and goes out on the streets to really kind of reach out to those women. And so I've put a little bit of that in there as well, so that people see what it looks like to be in it and to help. That does start more in depth in book 2. Book 1 is just a touch. It's not very deep. It just introduces the topic. So,
yeah. And it sounds like you've done your research on it. So I just think that might be a great place, for them to go. Well, can you tell us where people can find your book? I know they can find it at the indielector.store. That's INDIELECTOR.store. Do you have your books in bookstores, in libraries?
it's currently online at Amazon or paperback form at Amazon. It's downloadable on Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple Books. They all have it. And my marketing plan is to really reach out in person to some of our local stores to start carrying it soon by summer. I haven't had the time to do that yet. And so as far as who might have purchased it on their own without prodding from me, I couldn't tell you what stores have it on shelves. But I know that it's available for Barnes & Noble to purchase for their stores. And so I'll be reaching out to them soon this year to get that rolling, and hopefully to do maybe some book signings at some half-price books and Barnes and Nobles in our area, and kind of reach local people that way first and maybe spread the word from there. But it's available many channels online in paperback or ebook.
And have you done any book signings and readings of your book?
I've done readings of my children's series. I was able to go to schools and do that. And then children loved it so much, they asked me to read 2 of the stories instead of just 1, and I did. And I've done, I don't guess official signings. I've signed books where I used to work, but I've never had a venue signing at this point.
No, okay. And are you on Facebook and Twitter?
Yes, I am. I have a Facebook account, an Instagram account, not Twitter, and an Amazon author account as well. On Facebook, you can find me at Katherine Brown-Katie author, and then my Amazon account is listed under Katherine Brown, and you can find it easily or find it through my books.
Well, Katherine, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Again, this is Katherine Brown, and her latest book is Rest, Relax, and Run for Your Life. And this is Charlotte Canyon. And remember, a rose is like a book. You can't know its beauty until you look at it. And a book is like a rose. You won't know its full beauty until it's opened. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Katherine.
Be a guest on the show or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com. Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.